Hello and welcome to another numbers edition of Apple a Day. In today's episode, I'm going to go over more date and time functions, and today I'm covering WEEKNUM and ISO WEEKNUM. Both functions return the number of the week, but they use two different methods to calculate. So let's get started with the first one, WEEKNUM. So I've already got a table open with a cell selected. I'll type in that equal sign to bring up the formula editor and type in WEEKNUM and return. And you can see that it takes two parameters. One is the date, and the second parameter tells numbers how you want to calculate the week number for the year. But we'll get to that in a second. For the date, I'm just going to type in the today function and press return. And for the second parameter, I'm just going to click on that. And you can see that we have two options. If we don't include this parameter or simply choose Sunday, it will use Sunday as the first day of the week when it calculates the week number of the year. The other option is you can tell it that Monday is the first day of the week. But let's not enter in anything, and we'll leave this as Sunday. And that gives us 37. And today is September 13th, 2023, and this is the 37th week. But what happens if we click on this, double click on it, and change this to Monday? It changes to 38. So why would this change from 37 to 38 simply because we're using Monday as the first day of the week? So let's take a look at the calendar to see why this might happen. So if I look over here at January 1st, 2023, I can see that the first happens to fall on a Sunday. So if the first day of the year is Sunday, then January 1st, using Sunday as the first day of the week, this is week number one. This whole week is week number one. But when we change the start day of the week to a Monday, well, guess what? This becomes a new week. So the first week of the year only contains a Sunday. And then when we hit Monday, which is the start day of a new week, this is week number two. So you see how it's offset? So suddenly this is week two instead of week one, and that's why everything's been bumped by a week. So just something to be aware of if you ever decide to change that value. But don't take my word for it. Let's double check this. So I'm just going to go here. Actually, I'm going to make this a bit easier. I'm going to type in some dates. So 2023-01-01 and 2023-01-02 for January 1st and 2nd. And actually in this column, let's show the day of the week as well. There we go. So we can see we got Sunday, January 1st, and Monday, January 2nd. So let's try this calculation. Week number. So with the date parameter selected, I'm just going to choose this cell. And we'll leave it as Sunday. I'm just going to copy this and paste it in here. And because we selected Sunday as the first day of the week, both of these return 1, which is what I just explained when we were looking at the calendar. Now let's adjust this and change this to Monday. When I hit the checkbox or press return, it still says 1, which is also what we expected. WEEKNUM will always return a value of 1 for January 1st. Now remember I just said that because when we move on to ISO WEEKNUM, it's not going to be that simple. All right, so let's take this formula and we'll copy it for January 2nd. And fingers crossed, like I said, this should show week 2 because Monday is the start of a new week. And it does. And that's why today's date jumped up a week when we used Monday as the start day. All right, well, I hope that all makes sense. That's pretty much it for WEEKNUM, a very, very simple function which just returns the week number within a year of a given date. Moving on to ISO WEEKNUM. Now, this is very, very similar to WEEKNUM, but it calculates the week using something called ISO 8601 standard. For more information on that, I've included a Wikipedia link in the description below. That will tell you everything you want to know about calculating the week based on this ISO 8601 standard. But let's try to simplify it here. The standard dictates that this function takes a date and returns the number of the week between 1 to 54, not 52. And also, it uses Monday as the first day of the week, and that's built into this standard. You can't change that. There's no option to choose Sunday. And here's the tricky part. The first week of the year has to contain a Thursday. So yeah, it's very confusing. So the first week has to have a Thursday. So this is a lot easier to explain with examples. So let's get to it. So I'm going to type in the equal sign here to bring up the formula editor. and type in ISO WEEKNUM. And this only takes a single parameter, just the date. If the time is part of that date, the time is ignored. So I'm going to type in today again, just to get today's date, and press return. And if you recall, I did say that this standard, this ISO standard, uses Monday as the first day of the week to do its calculations. So one would think that this should give us a value of 38, right? Which is what WEEKNUM gave us if we used Monday as the first day of the week. I'm going to press return. And of course, it does not do that. We get 37. Now, why the heck did we get 37? This is where it gets a little tricky. So I'm going to go back to the calendar. And if you look here, I did say that the week must have a Thursday in it. And the weeks are to start on a Monday. So the first full week we see here on this calendar is January 2nd is the first day of that week, right? And it's got a Thursday in it. The previous week, which is ending on the Sunday, there's no Thursday in that week. So what does that mean? Does that mean it's week number 0, or does it belong to the previous year? Well, the way this standard works and this function works is that it would actually make this part of the previous year. And this becomes week number 1, which is why it still says 37, even though Monday is the first day of the week. So I'm just going to go to this other sheet that I've got set up here. I've already got the dates in here that I want to work with. And we can see we've got Sunday, January 1st, Monday, January 2nd. So let's use this new function on these dates. I'm going to type in = again, and ISO WEEKNUM return, choose that cell, and press return again. And look what it gives me. For January 1st, it gives me 52. So that means that's within the 52nd week of the previous year. Depending on when the previous year's first week started, also perhaps if it was a leap year, this value would be between 52 and 54 maximum. Now let's copy this formula to the date below it, paste it in, and now Monday, January 2nd is week number 1, which is what I had said when we were looking at the calendar. So let's look at some more examples. Let's look at this one here, Friday, January 1st, 2021. I'm going to go back to the calendar. I'm going to scroll up a couple years. There we go. So here we can see Friday, January 1st. Now, because I said that the first week of the year must contain a Thursday, does that mean then that in this example, the first week doesn't start until January 4th? That would kind of make sense based on that. So then these dates here, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd would be in the previous year, so they would have a value of 52, 53, or 54. Let's go back to numbers and test that theory. So Friday, January 1st, I'm going to paste in the formula, and it shows me 53. I should have put in some more dates in here. Hang on. We'll go January 2nd, and January 3rd, and January 4th. Okay, so, whoops. It helps if I type this in correctly. Okay, so I'm going to paste the formula in for January 2nd. I believe that should also give me 53 weeks. And Sunday, January 3rd, also the 53rd week. And it does. So Monday, January 4th, because that's the first Monday that has a Thursday in it for the year, that should be number 1. And it is. It's important that we're able to predict how this function works and how the calculation works. Because if it's not predictable, then the numbers just seem arbitrary. So it is good to know why it does what it does. So let's do one more example. Let's go back to January 1st, 2020. Go back one more year. So the first week of January in 2020, you can see starts on a Wednesday. Well, January 2nd is Thursday, and based on the ISO standards, the first week has to have a Thursday in it. So I would think that the 1st all the way through to the 5th would be week number 1. So let's go back to numbers and confirm that. So I've already got Wednesday here. I'm going to paste the formula in again. And it's true. Wednesday, January 1st is week 1. Let's change this to the 5th, which I think is Sunday. And note that that also stays as 1 because it's all part of the first week. But if we change this to the following Monday, which is the 6th, that would be where the week switches over to week number 2. And it does. So that's pretty much it for ISO WEEKNUM. It calculates the number of the week of the year based on this ISO standard. So the big question is, why would one ever use this function? I did some searching, but I couldn't find a single reason why anyone would ever use this function. I found tons of examples of how you use the function and how it calculates, but I couldn't find a real-world example as to when you would use it versus just the regular weeknum. But if anybody actually knows why you would use this function, please add it to the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Well, that's it for today. That's all we're going to talk about for weeknum and ISO weeknum. I hope this made sense and I hope it was valuable. Thanks as always for watching. My name is John Martins. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode of Apple a Day.